Hi, and welcome to today's discussion on entrepreneurial decision makers and the use of biases and heuristics. Today, we're going to take a look at some of the negative biases that can influence entrepreneurs in their decision making, and specifically, we're going to take a look at representativeness and overconfidence. Entrepreneurs are certainly more likely to use such biases, and we have to incorporate elements of personal judgment, of other cognitive mechanisms and kind of mental shortcuts, as well as subjective opinions. And a couple of the key factors that we do that are really driven by the benefits that we need to achieve as entrepreneurs. We have incomplete data. We need to make decisions quickly with minimal resources and minimal money involved. And we need to take decisive action to capitalize on near-term opportunities, as well as to lessen the likelihood of missing opportunities, because good opportunities for entrepreneurs may come very rarely. We also want to go through a loop of working to learn, to build, to measure, and continue to go through that process. This is attributed to the lean startup, and the orientation here is that regardless of the type of venture, that we will certainly benefit by taking our ideas, building them, in this case for a software firm, meaning that we're going to code up these elements, deploy them such that we can actually measure and understand what's going on in the market, getting that customer feedback to help us learn about the venture, learn about the product and the customers we're serving, and bringing that back to the idea phase and doing all of this in an iterative process. And by doing it quickly and affordably, it gives us the opportunity to integrate that customer feedback into our venture to make our subsequent products quicker, better, faster, and cheaper. Now, there are some dangers in doing this. One, we may be moving rather hastily. We may be making an incomplete assessment. We may squander resources. We may have new biases that come into play. But fundamentally, what we want to understand is that we may be subject to some element of representativeness, meaning that we are basing decisions on just a small set of inputs, that a few people tell us that they like the venture and we think it's a good idea to launch it. Or a few people tell us that our price point's too high, so we feel the need to lower it. Instead, go through, do some sound research, talk to some experts, and make sure that you don't go through and make a decision with too little inputs and that you try and overgeneralize the data that you're collecting. The second element to be aware of from a biases perspective is this element of overconfidence. We like to be confident. We like to be decisive. But if we are over-optimistic, we may find that we ultimately are setting ourselves up for failure, and we want to go through and recognize that there's a fine line between being overconfident and being optimistic. When we look at representativeness, why do we engage or fall subject to such a thing? Again, we may not have the time or the money to go through and do a really systematic analysis of the opportunity. We may not have the resources to analyze the data, even if we are able to collect it. We may have this fear of missing opportunity, and we may have this sense of urgency to make a decision. Conversely, with overconfidence, there's certainly an expectancy that what we want to happen will happen as entrepreneurs, and that's an optimistic perspective, which can be valuable in moderation. We also want to be careful not to overestimate our own capabilities. And we also want to be aware that while we want to be confident and be a confident example to our investors and team members and others, that if we are overconfident, we may indeed fall victim to a number of things that we don't expect, and or we may be caught by surprise unnecessarily. So how do we manage that? How do we maintain some level of being confident and also maintain a level of understanding the market and making decisions without falling victim to representativeness and these overconfidence biases? One is that we actively search for information, that we define our assumptions and decision criteria, that we evaluate and select from alternatives rather than simply going with the first thing that comes to mind, that we understand the consequences, and that we work as a team and have others challenge our ideas and ultimately make inputs to try and improve those ideas. Getting advice is very helpful as well, not only from our immediate team members, but from respected advisors, experts, friends and family that may have some insights into our industry or customers. And this will help us cycle through this process of going through and building things of merit and meaning And what we mean by minimum viable product is that if you have a concept or a service that may have 10 features, are there 2 or 3 features that you can use to test the market? And can you get those few features in at a lower price point than to build the entire element? And can you get them in play quicker? And if I can build something cheaper and faster, although it may not be my ultimate product, is it enough that I can field that I can get customer feedback, that I can improve my version 1 product with that customer feedback into a version 2 product, and so forth, rather than simply trying to raise a lot of money and spending a lot of time to bring something to market that not enough people may want, or that not enough people may be willing to pay for. So in that way, with minimum viable product, it's a way of testing concepts and testing products and testing the market very early, very smartly, and much more affordably. And so we can go through with that concept and do a build, measure, learn. Also, from a pivoting standpoint, what we mean there is that we want to recognize that our product may need to adapt. It may need to change. It may need to focus on a different type of customer. It may need to be oriented towards a different market purpose. And it gives us the opportunity to test some of those elements as well. And we want to go through and discover as much as we can about the customer as soon as we can to validate that the problem that we think in the market is indeed in the market, and that we can see if we have a fit, if we have a business model that's logical. And by business model, we're looking at how does the company generate its revenues? How do we go through and create a viable company long term? And once we have a good feel for the customer, that we validated that their interests and concerns are indeed what they think we are, we're able to go through and build that company and grow that company. And again, it's an iterative process that involves customer feedback very early in the cycle. So today we've taken a look at some of these negative biases. We've looked at how to manage representativeness and overconfidence, how to get customer feedback early and often, and validate that the problems we're solving are indeed real problems. Thank you very much.